Hello everyone, welcome to the Takeaway Club, where I talk to interesting people across different walks of life to get to know their stories, and more importantly, the habits, routines, and other interests that shaped up their journey and got them to where they are, and some of which we can apply to our own lives and become the best version of ourselves. In today's episode, I have one of my very close friends, Mukil Ganesan, to share his learnings as a marketer in the SaaS industry. Mukil takes care of growth at Facilio, an enterprise startup focusing on the property management industry. Of course, Mukil and I were in the same team there, and from my day one at the job, he has been incredibly supportive. He's an amazing colleague, and more than that, one of the nicest guys who will go out of his way to help people. I remember it was my first week at the job when I brought up the idea of podcast to him, and he spent a Sunday morning help me set up the website. For those who know him, this doesn't come as a surprise at all. Just like the fact how good he is at what he does. Even if you chat with him for say 5 minutes, you're sure to walk out learning something useful. And I've had the pleasure of having so many such insightful conversations with him in the last few months. And I wanted to bring one of that for all of us to learn from. So if you're a SaaS professional, particularly from sales or marketing, you're in for a treat. Without further ado, let's jump right into the conversation. Hi Mukil, how have you been? How is the lockdown treating you?
Hi, Krishna. So thank you for inviting me on this podcast. And yeah, I've been good, and the lockdown has been treating me well till now. Hopefully, things should return back to normal soon. And of course, I'm badly missing the office space now.
That's true. For people listening, here is a fun fact. Mukil and I both grew up in Trichy for several years. Of course, we didn't get to know each other until very recently. Right now, he lives like 5 miles away from my home here at Trichy. It neither have of us have been, able to see us in person over the last 2 months. So hopefully things will get better in the coming days. For people who have interacted with you, we all know what an interesting personality you have. Oh, you have such diverse interests and you're passionate about so many things. But today I want to focus on something that I believe uh, will really help people get better at their jobs by listening to your views and opinion on them. So before we get into that, why don't we start off with a little background on your story?
Yes. To give a professional background about me, I'm currently working at Facilio, and I'm handling the growth and marketing efforts there. And prior to joining Facilio, I was with Zoho for close to 4 years. At Zoho, again, I was handling marketing and growth for one of their products. And to give my educational background, I did my engineering in computer science and straight away got into Zoho for content based role. Other than that, I've been a part time wedding photographer. And during my college days, I took up a lot of freelance gigs on graphic design, content writing, etc.
Wow, that's interesting. I want to get in at length here about growth hacking. No, we know there is a lot of buzz surrounding the word. We see LinkedIn posts around it. We see people conducting webinars. It's just that there is so much content out there. It's a little tough, especially for someone starting out, to separate the wheat from the chaff here. As someone who has been in the trenches, uh, taking care of growth, be it in your time at Zoho or at Facilio, uh, what is growth hacking?
Okay. So actually, I've been waiting to answer this for a long time, and this is something which I talk about consistently whenever I get to have meetups or conversations with marketers or any of the founders. So, to understand what is growth hacking or what is growth and why there's so much buzz around it, we need to definitely know the history behind it. And so I'll just give you a short snippet on how growth as a function originated and how it has grown massively and why everybody is talking about growth in recent times. So in the later part of the 2000s, I think around 2007, 8, and early 2010s, B2C companies like Facebook, Uber, so they wanted to massively increase their user growth. And when it comes to an aggregator like Uber, they wanted to maximize the number of the ride hailers and etc. So this is a story from 2007, and in 2007, Facebook hired a person named Chamath Palihaptia. So and he was brought in to increase the user growth and other things. And Chamath struggled for 1 year, and after that, I think Sheryl Sandberg joined. Sheryl is now the COO of Facebook, and they both teamed up together, and they they planned on how they can increase the user growth of Facebook. So they ideated on a couple of things, and they came up with a couple of activities, and and they were thinking of how they are going to execute all these things. So here's the conversation actually that happened between Sheryl and Mark Zuckerberg. So Chamath proposed this idea, and Mark went ahead and asked him, so what do you call this thing where you help change the product, do some SEO, SEM, and algorithmically do this? And how exactly can you call this? This is what the question that was put forth by Mark. And Chamath replied, like, I don't know, I just call that like growth. You know, we are going to try to grow. So I'll be the head of growing stuff at Facebook. And from then on, growth became a thing among the Silicon Valley companies. So I think after that, Uber went ahead and came up with a growth frameworks and etc. There was a person named Andrew Chen at Uber. So he writes a lot, and I personally read a lot of his articles, and it's amazing actually. So that's how growth started as a thing. I think it would have started 10 years back from today. I think in recent times, all the companies have started hiring for growth, and growth hacking has become this buzzword across organizations. So, from my perspective and from my experiences, the best explanation I can give for the growth team is that they are highly data driven professionals from different functions who have deep understanding of the market, the product, and the operations. So, growth activities are always mapped to a metric. For example, it can be the amount of revenue, it can be the number of users, etc. And growth as a function works in a systematic way and builds an internal framework that would yield them the desired results in the long run. And the activities within the framework are split into smaller parts, and that's why each professional would showcase their expertise. The team always works towards one North Star metric. So, and it's a completely scientific and systematic function within an organization. I don't personally acknowledge the word hacking here because, hacking is something that you do within a short span of time to get an immediate result. Maybe that can be a part in the growth team, but an actual growth team is some contains the professionals who look towards the longer run, and who make uh, who come up with activities that yields them good results in the long run. Apart from all these, the team needs to have the growth mindset, and I think that's very, very important for a company.
That's wonderfully put, Mukil. So I think you gave a very good picture of what growth is on paper for anyone
Yeah,
looking to get beyond the jargons that's thrown around. So how
yeah,
does your day look like typically in your organization? So
yeah. So for the organizations I work for, so my ideal week would be like I'll be consuming data at least like 60 to 70% of the time, and I'll not just be consuming. I'll be thinking on. I'll try to find out the loopholes from the data. So I'll be finding out the opportunities that are available, and how I can come up with a set of activities to improve some number. For example, if I need to bring in some around 30 or 40 leads per month, or if I need to push a couple of leads through the sales funnel and hand it over to the sales people. So I'll be thinking on how I can do this, and and how I can go ahead and structure the activities and structure the strategies, and how I can build a framework and how I can build a long lasting framework. Because, as I said earlier, growth is a continuous process and it doesn't end with just one activity or one task. So, how I can model a strategy wherein I build an engine so that there is continuous revenue flow, there is continuous leads and flow from that engine. So, that's something which I work on regularly. And other than that, I also take care of a couple of marketing activities and PR activities. So I'll also be working on that. But the major part of my time is used in reading through the data and collating the data, analyzing it, and finding out the opportunities available, and how I can leverage various channels to match the target set by the organization which I work for, etc.
That's very nice. I want to get into a little bit more detail on how you have evolved as a professional. So, as someone
Mm-hmm.
who started out at Zoho 4 years back,
Mm-hmm.
but at a time when probably you didn't have as much exposure as you do now, to currently
Mm-hmm.
your role at Facilio, uh,
Mm-hmm.
how have your roles changed between the two
Yeah,
organizations?
actually, that's an interesting question. Actually, uh, to tell about my journey, so I joined Zoho in 2016, and I did not have any idea about what is SaaS or what is a cloud software, uh, or how they do marketing and what is sales, what is product. I did not have any idea when I joined Zoho, and again, I joined as a content writer there. So uh, I had some content. I had taken up some content gigs previously when I was in college and when I was freelancing, and I had some experience with designing. I mean, graphic designing, and I had some experience with designing marketing collaterals. So that experience helped me get a job at Zoho basically. And when I joined Zoho as a content writer, I, uh, I was writing content 100% of my time for the first 6 months. And after that, I had an opportunity to explore the marketing analyst part. I mean, the marketing analytics part of the marketing team. And I went ahead and looked into the numbers. And I also started sending out a couple of email campaigns. And and side by side, I was working on website content, website optimization, as in looking into the Google Analytics data and looking into some CRO tools and measuring how the website is performing and how many signups are we getting, and optimizing it for maximize signups. So slowly, it was a very slow transformation for me. And again, it's a continuous process. So my professional life has been evolving year over year. uh, so yes, this happened for the first 1 year of my career. And I think after some 12 to 18 months, I was pretty much uh, experienced on reading the data and pulling up some charts. And I had an app for numbers. This I found out after I started working on it. Actually, I did not know that I was a bit analytical in nature. So this happened after I was exposed to a lot of activities. So by the end of around 12 to 18 months, I was a bit well versed on the market analytics part. And I was able to read through the numbers, and I was able to identify the key performance indicators for the activities which we were performing. And slowly I was introduced to the sales part of the product's performance. And then again, I tried to learn it for around 3 to 4 months. I sat and talked to a lot of salespeople, and I talked to a lot of since Zoho is a very diverse organization, I had the opportunity to talk to people across products and people who work across the geographies. So that was one of the greatest advantages, and most of them are open to help out and open to mentor. So after my conversations with a lot of them, and after I got an understanding of how actually an organization works, how actually a SaaS organization works, again, this took me around 2 years. So to understand the industry completely and to understand how daily operations are done in a SaaS company, it actually took me 2 years. So after that, by the end of 2 years, there was a requirement to set up a growth team for my product, and that's when one of my superiors called me and talked to me. Why don't you give this a shot, and why don't you take ownership of this? And again, this was completely new for me. Until then, I didn't even know that something like growth existed, as in growth as a function existed. And I was a bit nervous actually, because most of the growth team's activities are for revenue generation and products user growth, and this was a lot of responsibility for me at that time. So, but opportunities do not come to you always. So I just went ahead and gave a yes for him, and then we got started. So my journey with growth started by the end of 2017, and towards the mid of 2019, I quit Zoho and joined Facilio, and it was for a similar role as Facilio. But the greatest challenge here was Facilio sales to the enterprise segment of the market. Uh, I had, again, it was like I had no clue about how the enterprise market works, and what are the ideal deal values, and what are the ideal sales cycle time. I mean, the time to get a lead converted. And I've been with Facilio for almost I think it's around 9 to 10 months since I joined Facilio, and this was again a new learning for me. So uh, marketing to an enterprise segment of the market, and setting up the growth frameworks, or identifying what works and what doesn't work in an enterprise market is completely different from what happens in an SMB market. So let me tell you a simple example. So for a company that caters to the SMB market, they might have a free trial, and they might give you a trial of 15 days, or they might extend it for around 30 days or 45 days to the maximum. In a growth team at an SMB company, SMB focused company, uh, it's really easier for them to gauge the efforts in the growth team. For example, if they are going to run an experiment to increase the customers they are going to acquire in the next 1 month or 2 months, they'll be able to see the results of their activities within 30 or 45 days to the maximum. And they'll be able to know whether it's working or not. If it's not working, they'll definitely scrape it. And if it's working, they'll double down on it. So that's the ideal thumb rule which we go ahead with usually. But when you consider an enterprise market, the sales processes are completely different, and most of the enterprise focused companies does not give you a free trial, and the processes are completely different here. The people we deal with are completely different. Our stakeholders are completely different, and the geographies are sometimes completely different. And when the geographies are different, the cultural values are different. So there are a lot of factors here, and it will definitely take some time to figure these primary things. And after that, the next challenge is the sales cycles are lengthier. Actually, it will be again really lengthier when compared to an SMB company. So whatever we do, we need to plan ahead. We need to plan ahead, like what am I going to get if I roll out this activity today, and if I roll out this framework, or if I roll out this strategy today, what will be the result of this in the next 5 to 6 months or in the next 1 year. So that's the challenge that we come across daily. And again, it's really exciting if you're someone who loves to if you're someone who loves growth, and if you're someone who loves getting a lot of revenue for a company, and if you're someone who loves to directly work with the people in bringing in revenue or in bringing in more users, this will definitely be an exciting role for you. And I think that's how my career has been progressing till now. It's always an evolution. So we'll get into one segment, we'll understand it, and we'll understand the data, we'll come up with the activities, we'll roll those activities, we'll then measure it, optimize it, and once that's over, we'll get to the next part. And this keeps continuing for a single market. And since I switched my job in between, I then moved to the enterprise segment. There's been a lot of learning, and there's been a lot of unlearning. The unlearning part is very important here. Um, for a SaaS professional, or for any person, they might be across any function in a company. They might be a product person, they might be an engineering person. they should be open to unlearn a lot of things. So when it comes to growth, what worked in Zoho for me might not work at Facilio, and I can't keep pressing on. I can't keep wasting my time on rolling out a strategy that worked for me at Zoho. And at that point, I need to unlearn what I learned at my previous company and learn some new strategies and try to get myself together and roll it out and measure. So that's how it's been for me till now.
Wow, that's a very comprehensive take on how a professional evolves over time between companies. When you were talking about this, you mentioned how at Zoho you had
Mm-hmm,
these amazing colleagues who went out of their
mm-hmm,
way to help you get settled in. So during
mm-hmm,
that time when you were starting out with your new role in the growth team, uh,
mm-hmm,
were there a set of blogs or a community that you followed that
mm-hmm.
helped you get things up to speed?
Okay. So one good thing and one good habit which I inculcated after joining Zoho was that I used to read for at least 1 hour daily. So I used to read some content related to SaaS, some content related to content marketing, or some content related to how sales teams work. So I came into that habit very early on, and this was again stressed by my manager at that time. So he used to send me a couple of articles daily during my early stages at the company. So for the first 1 or 2 months, he used to send me like some 5 or 6 links, and he'll ask me to read it. And then we used to meet up weekly, and he'll just ask whether you read it or not. And it was again interesting kind of thing. So slowly, I inculcated that habit within me. So I started reading daily, at least whenever I was at office. So I was at office for 5 days in a week, and I try to at least spend 45 minutes to 1 hour daily on reading content related to the market and related to the industry which we were in. And that basically helped me to get a deeper understanding of the market, and that again established a transparency for me. I was able to understand like how functions worked in a company, and how are growing companies evolving, and how are growing companies evolving their functions, and how are growing companies evolving their marketing strategies. And slowly I sort of got comfortable with a couple of people. As I said earlier, I was comfortable, and I resonated with the content which Andrew wrote, or Brian wrote, or few other articles that were published in growthhacker.com. So that's how I got started. And really, these articles helped me a lot in the early stages of setting up the growth frameworks at a company. And I was able to understand the importance of this function, and I was able to understand the sensitivity of this function. If To be honest, if we screw up anything in a month, we lose 50% or 25% of the purchases that month. So that was the responsibility which was vested upon us. So we did not give any chance for any downtimes or any breakages or any issues in the activities which we rolled out. We also started talking to a lot of people within the organization. Another one important advantage, I mean, one biggest advantage in organizations like Zoho is that you get to have access to a lot of people from top top to bottom. So you can anytime ping them in chat or take your phone and call them, and they'll respond definitely. So that again gave us a perspective on whether we were doing the things correctly, and whether we were on the right track.
Of course. So I think that's wonderful advice. Reading,
Mhm.
it's as much true
Exactly.
for your professional career as it is for your personal life. Uh,
Exactly. Actually, when you get started out on reading, it will be like sometimes it will be boring, and sometimes you might get sleepy, and sometimes it might not be interesting. But if you bring it to a practice, you'll definitely realize the impact of that in your career, in both your personal and professional life, in a year or so. I can guarantee you that, because I experienced that personally.
That's very true. I'm on the same boat here. I hadn't
Mhm.
started. reading until I was at my first job. And looking
Mm-hmm.
back, the growth I've had personally in the last 1 year, I wholly attribute to that habit of reading. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very powerful example of how compound interest works, like how Warren Buffett used to put. Um, it simply changes your life in a way that it's very hard for someone who doesn't read to comprehend the impact, the kind of positive impact that it has on you as an individual.
Yep.
So at this point, I want to switch gears a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
you are an engineer, and then you turned into a marketer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is a theme that we often see in the SaaS industry, and that's the
Yep.
beauty of SaaS actually. As long as you
Mm-hmm.
have the skills, it doesn't matter where you went to college or which degree you studied, right?
Mm-hmm.
So given that this is where we are headed, how do you
Mm-hmm.
see a smoother transition for college or perhaps even school kids who are still
Mm-hmm.
flocking to study engineering, only
Mm-hmm.
to realize that they don't have to do that in order to land a good job, a job that they really like?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. Uh, One thing is, uh, the college administrations itself need to create a lot of awareness of about these roles and about the opportunities they have after they graduate. And because from my personal experience, I didn't even know there are roles like content writer or and there are roles like SDRs and LDRs and field sales kind of thing. Let me tell you what I heard on the first day of my college. So this is what happened. The basic orientations were over, and we were just sitting in the classroom, and a couple of staffs came in. They gave some introductions, and one of the things which I continuously came across in my first semester of my engineering college was that they were like, uh, if you don't get placed in a service company, they didn't even name it as a service company. So if you don't get hired in CTS, TCS, Wipro, or Infosys, your life is over. So this was something which I kept on hearing consistently for some 6 to 7 months.
Mm.
And at that point in time and at the maturity level I was in, I did not believe in that actually. But my peers and the students across the classroom or students across the department, they were very much impacted by this. So, for example, during the placement season, a couple of my friends or a couple of the people I know did not get placed in one of the service companies. They rejected them, and they were like they were sitting like the world was over for them, and they did not have they didn't even know what to do next, and they felt so low. It was really difficult for them to pull themselves up and go ahead and attend another interview. And this mindset is present across colleges and across the staffs in an engineering college. And again, most of the engineering colleges want their students to get placed, so that's their primary intention. And I didn't even know, from my personal experience, I didn't even know there are a lot of companies in Chennai, there are a lot of companies in Tamil Nadu, there are a lot of companies like SaaS companies in Bangalore. All I kept hearing was the names of the service companies. So, and there were a few product companies also. But again, there were a couple of restrictions in colleges. For example, I'm again an example here. I was not eligible to sit for a campus interview in my college since I had a couple of backlogs at that point in time. And I think around 90 to 100 companies visited our college. And I was not allowed to sit in any of these companies. I was allowed to sit for a developer interview at Zoho, and the second option which I had was I had an opportunity to sit for an interview with a service company. And again, provided my knowledge of technical things when it comes to computer science, I was rejected both at the service company's interview and Zoho's interview. And I knew that actually. I accepted that. I knew my strength and weaknesses at that point in time actually. And I just accepted, yes, this is me and this is not the opportunity for me. But, but most of the peers, most of my friends, they were pretty much depressed after they faced their failure for the first time or the second time. And this pattern got repeated across colleges, across batches, and this is still happening today. So one of the main things which I would recommend is the administration in a college, the top level people in a college should spread the awareness of the companies that are available in the market today, the companies, I mean the roles that are available in the job market today, and and what are the scope and what is the future of each of these roles and what is the future of companies that are in the industry today. Because after I got into Zoho, and when I was just skimming, when I was just browsing across the internet on the type of companies that were available in India and that were available particularly in Chennai or Bangalore, I was amazed. Like there were so many companies available, and there were so many product-based companies also available. There were some really innovative companies, and of course, they were also looking for freshers and fresh graduates and fresh graduates both from engineering and arts background. So everything I heard during the start of my engineering was a lie actually, and it was also useless for me. So first thing is that uh, uh, the students need very good awareness about the job market today, about the industry today. Because if you rewind 20 years back, 15 or 20 years back, at that time, the only companies were like there was TCS, CTS, Wipro, and Infosys, and couple of other companies. And all these companies were service-based companies. And it was at that time the IT industry was getting hot in Chennai, Bangalore, and India. And India was becoming the outsourcing hub for the world. And most of the engineers and computer engineers went on on-site opportunities, went to the US, to the Europe, to the Australia, and they went ahead and settled there and switched companies. And this thing was happening, and this was a pattern across the service-based companies. I think people are still in that mindset till now, and of course, I myself had heard it when I went ahead and told to a few people that I work at Zoho. They were like, "Why did you not get a job in TCS or a CTS? Why are you working at Zoho? And what is that company?" So this was the first thing which I heard, and this was before Zoho became a hit in India. So
Mm,
this was before Zoho started marketing in India.
mm,
So that was the reply which I got personally. So again, awareness should be created among the parents also, because there are a lot of creative professions here, there are a lot of intellectual professions here, there are a lot of analytical professions here, and that's one thing. So awareness should be created among parents, among the college, and thirdly, the students need to be aware, and the students need to be confident that if they do not get a job in the campus interview, their life is not over.
mm,
This is very important actually. So whatever we do, whatever you do while being a student, if you're curious enough, if you have the passion to do something, if you have the passion to start up, you can go ahead and do it definitely.
mm,
Of course, you'll be struggling for first few months or first few years, but if you're really passionate about it and if you really believe in something, you can just go ahead. You can just go ahead and apply for the job interview today, apply for a job interview in a SaaS company today, and follow up with the people and go ahead and talk to some of the people and ask them to invest in your startup. So something which I keep consistently telling to the people whom I come across daily, to my juniors, to the people whomever who ask some help from me, I tell them this regularly. If you believe in something, if you're really passionate about something, just go ahead and do it, and I'll support you in any way possible. So that mindset should be brought in within the students, and I'm not sure how the engineering college students are nowadays. Uh, but students also need to do their part in this. So they need to go ahead and explore, because the teachers and parents cannot keep feeding the college students. They need to do their part. They need to explore what are the industries available, and they need to find out what ticks them. They need to find the passion in them. They need to find the purpose in their life, to put in a simple word. It's very difficult for an 18-year or 19-year-old to find the purpose in their life, but they can go ahead and find out what makes them tick, what makes them happy, what makes them wake up daily and go ahead and do a job passionately. It can be anything. It can be coding, it can be some product related with product management, or and of course they won't know what product management itself if they do not have the awareness about it. So here comes the awareness part actually. So they need to be with open hands and go ahead and try out all the opportunities, and let it be arts, music, anything else, media, communication. I have a lot of friends whom I have in school, have from my school. Uh, One of them is a fashion designer today, and one of them is an orator today, and a few of them are putting up plays today. So actors today. So there are a whole lot of opportunities there, and provided the society's understanding today, and provided the usual middle class thinking of our society, most of them get pushed into engineering. And this is I'm seeing actually in recent times I see that this pattern is changing. So I see most of them getting into the arts, or most of them getting into the into the UG program in which they are talented in. So, and if at all, if you get into engineering, it's not the end of the world again. So you can always find the passion, you can always find what ticks you, and then go ahead and talk to a lot of people, because there are a lot of professional networks today. There is LinkedIn, again there is Twitter, Facebook. You can leverage any of these social media and put it to the right use, talk to a lot of people and learn a lot, and then go ahead and maybe if you love a company, if you love a type of company, go ahead and sit for an interview there, and don't depend on the college to get you a job. So there are three things again to sum up. One is good awareness should be created among the college administration. The second is the parents need to be aware that there are opportunities like this, and if money is the concern, if finance is the concern, there are a lot of good paying jobs here. I mean, and the third thing is the students needs to do their part also. They need to go ahead and explore and be open to opportunities always, and they need to definitely find what they are passionate about and then capitalize on it, and then go all out on it. So that's what I would say.
That is very beautifully put, Mukil. And I
Mm-hmm.
think companies like Zoho or Freshworks, they are leading the way in that, when you
Exactly.
go to campuses, I don't care what your CGPA is, I don't care how many
Yes.
backlogs you have. I
Yep.
have a job to be done here. If you're good at
Mm-hmm.
it, we are going to do great.
Exactly, because without that mindset and that culture, I would not have got a job at Zoho, and I will not be in a position which I'm in today, if not for that culture which was inculcated by Zoho
Mhm.
or any other company.
Very
So
true.
I think that's really important. And if at all, if I'm going to hire someone, maybe in the future, maybe in a couple of years, I'll again not see his credentials, whether he get pass mark or whether he was a 9 point or a 10 point. I don't care about that. At the end of the day, what I'll see is what does he bring to the table. So that's the only thing that I'll see. And how does he behave? How does he react to situation? And how he or she can function under a stressful environment,
Mhm.
and what will they do in a crisis. For example, COVID is a living example right now. So what will this person do when a crisis hits us, when there's a challenge to humanity, when there's a challenge to business. So that's what I'll basically look in a person, and I won't give a crap about how much marks they got in school or college.
Very true. Uh, so, Mukil, you are at a point in your career where you've got to experiment a lot of things and learn
Mm-hmm.
a lot, like you have said throughout the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the last 4 or 5 years as a SaaS professional,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of
Mm-hmm.
the mistakes that you made uh, that
Mm-hmm.
that has really helped you grow as a professional?
Okay. First thing is you need to be very good at communicating,
Mhm.
and you need to be pretty much 100% clear on what you're trying to say to the person next to you, whether it can be email or chat or a face-to-face conversation. You need to be very clear in communication. So during the early stages of my career, I did a lot of mistakes in that, and again I learned from it. So the company which I work for gave me the opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them. And this is from a general perspective. And the uh, the second thing is, usually I used to hesitate to go ahead and talk to people. um, I get this strange feeling whenever I'm with a stranger. So you need to be open again. So you need to be with open hands. You need to go ahead and strike a conversation with someone and talk to them and ask about how things are working out and what are they doing. So this is again an exploration for you. This I did not do for the first few months in my office, and if only I did that earlier, I would have got more insights today. So that's something which I regret now. So that's one thing. You need to go ahead and talk to a lot of people and engage in healthy conversations. And the the third thing would be, when it comes to work, I think you need to be completely focused on what you are doing at that point in time. You can't keep juggling with multiple work items during the early stage of your career, and you need to be really focused. And yeah, here comes the most important thing. You need to be open to accept the mistakes you did. So
Mm.
if you did something and if it failed, or if you did some mistake, you just need to go ahead and talk to your manager or talk to your superior and tell them, yes, I did this and here was the mistakes. It was identified here and this was rectified and this was on my part. This issue happened because of my error. So you need to be always be open to accept your mistakes. Argument is not going to go anywhere. So it's just a waste of time. Um, that's one thing. And the fourth thing would be, um, always have the right set of data with you. So this is from a growth perspective. You need to always have the right data set with you, because with some unstructured data or with some incorrect data, all your activities are going to trash. You need to always double check or triple check on whether you have the right data, whether your analysis is correct. I have the habit of summing up numbers using pen and paper.
Mm.
If at all, I'll already have it in an Excel sheet or somewhere else or an analytics tool, but I still have the habit of summing up a couple of numbers or multiplication or dividing some basic math operators. I used to do these still in pen and paper today. If you come and have a look at my notepad, which I have, there'll be a lot of manual calculations there. This is again to make sure whether you're doing everything right. And you need to understand the responsibility which you have for the organization, which you hold for the organization you work for. So you can't afford to make mistakes. And again, if at all you make mistakes, you can just go ahead and accept, yeah, I just did that, and this was the reason behind it. So that's the fourth thing. So always having the right set of data. And the fifth thing would be, I think, there are chances for you to get frustrated, for you to get angry at someone or some people, and there are some difference in opinions that happen, and these things tend to happen in a workplace. So whenever that happens, you can just go ahead and personally have a conversation with them and make everything straight and make everything fine. Because when you work for an organization, when you work for a diverse organization, you need to build good relationships with people, and that's very important here. I think that's it on a high level. So there are many trivial things. Maybe I can tell those to you via phone call, but on a high level, I think, yeah, that's it.
That's wonderful, Mukil. I think these are nuggets of advice that's not just gonna help the rookies, but this is true for anyone who wants to excel in this industry.
Exactly.
So, as we head toward the end of the episode, uh,
Hmm.
give us a couple of names of some of the CEOs or growth experts that you are currently following that people who are listening can also look up to?
Yeah, I think I already covered this in my previous conversation. So one thing is you can go ahead and have a look at Andrew Chen's blog post, and he also runs a newsletter. And there is Brian Bulfer. He writes on Medium, and he also owns a blog. And you can always have a look at growthhackers.com. There are a lot of people posting there. And for like product analytics specific information, you can go ahead and look at the blog post of app queues, amplitude, etc. Other than that, on high level, if you want to know anything about marketing or sales, I think HubSpot has a lot of content today. So you can just go ahead and browse there.
Well, Mukil, this has truly been a pleasure. Oh, thank you for joining us on the Takeaway Club. Before we wrap, for folks who want to have a chat with you or reach out to you regarding anything that you have spoken here, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can always get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much active on LinkedIn. Or they can also go ahead and check out my website. It's mukilganesan.com. You can just email me. Yeah, so I think those are the two channels which I'm available in always.
Lovely. Thank you, Mukil. So stay safe. Take care.
Sure. Stay safe and take care. Hope to meet you soon.
Of course, Mukil.